Hello, Hoi There, and welcome everyone. We are here today to communicate with each other, support each other, and hopefully help each other to evolve to become better people than we are today. I am RainHet, but feel free to call me Rain. I want you all to know that this is an environment where we can talk freely and openly and without shame, except for you, Daniel, you disgusting, vile creature. Here at Furries Anonymous, we hope that listening to all our experiences, struggles, and triumphs will help us gain wisdom and feel heard, like cattle and sheep. Today, I want to bring to the attention of all of you the fur-human ratio. For decades, the realm of the furry has not been officially outlined. There is an infinite amount of ways to make an anthropomorphic character. Some are more animal than human, and others are more human than animal. Of all these combinations, where is the cutoff point for furry? Or does it start where the animal begins? The Ganal lioness is a 5,000-year-old figure, allegedly found in Iraq. It is a small 8-centimeter figure with a muscular upright body, cut off at the thigh. The head is of a lioness, and it looks very much anthropomorphic, though I can't say with much confidence what on earth is going on with the hands. I guess hands have always been a tough topic for artists. 5,000 years ago was 3,000 to 2,800 BC. This is when early civilizations were forming, agriculture is developing, Stonehenge and pyramids are getting built, and the Bronze Age begins. Could this also be the time when the first furries were born? These are not recent events at all, so it's rather odd to put such a modern concept into a time where even writing wasn't properly a thing. Everyone is aware of the Egyptian animal-headed gods. Even the Hindus had their fair share, and they were believed to have started somewhere around 2300 BC. Specifically, the Egyptian gods were depicted with certain animal heads to illustrate that they possessed characteristics similar to the animals in the stereotypical fashion. If you're familiar with the story of Adam and Eve, it will be of no surprise to you that Apophis, the god of chaos, had a serpent's head to symbolize his deviousness. All pure furries out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but don't furries do a similar thing when they are deciding on an animal for their first owner? Connecting with an animal on the basis of them being a good representation of you or your personality. I couldn't think of why else you might choose to have a specific animal other than pure admiration alone, but I feel as if you could admire something or someone and still not feel as if it represents you at all. A great example of people's fascination with animals and what they represent is Aesop's fables. These were a collection of stories written by Aesop, a Greek storyteller from around 600 BC. They've had to have been translated and retold a numerous amount of times before being able to be read and understood by modern people such as you and I. The main focus of most of these stories were animals, and their tales usually demonstrated a moral lesson. My current favourite being the story of the scorpion and the frog. In this story, the scorpion convinces the frog to carry him across the river on his back. Even though the scorpion promised not to sting the frog, he did anyway. But now you shall both surely drown, said the frog. Lol, said the scorpion. Lamau. Of course, I laughed at the absurdity of the situation, and the two creatures obviously died or something of the sort. To address the meaning of this story, there could be multiple. Maybe the focus is the frog being too trusting. Maybe the focus is the scorpion's desires being the cause of his own demise. Maybe them both sinking is symbolism of their toxic relationship bringing them both down. Whatever it is, we can all agree that the scorpion is a jerk. And I've never seen a scorpion furry. I'd assume they're all smart enough not to wear their assholery on their sleeves and pretend to be a wolf instead. Speaking of wolves, there's an Aesop fable about them too, of course. A wolf had been feasting too greedily, and a bone had stuck crosswise in his throat. He could get it neither up nor down, and of course he could not eat a thing. Naturally, that was an awful state of affairs for a greedy wolf. So away he hurried to the crane. He was sure that she, with her long neck and bill, would easily be able to reach the bone and pull it out. I will reward you very handsomely, said the wolf, if you pull that bone out for me. The crane, as you can imagine, was very uneasy about putting her head in a wolf's throat, but she was grasping in nature, so she did what the wolf had asked her to. When the wolf felt that the bone was gone, he started to walk away. "But what about my reward?" called the crane anxiously. "What?" snarled the wolf, whirling around. "Haven't you got it? Isn't it enough that I let you take your head out of my mouth without snapping it off? Accept no reward for serving the wicked." Looks like Aesop didn't think too kindly of wolves either, so scorpions pretending to be wolves means about as much as cyanide pretending to be seasoning. They're not too far off from each other. Before furry Twitter cancels me, our opinions on animals' personality traits probably can't be explained or summed up by an Aesop's fable. How we see animals today is likely not a one-to-one copy of back then, and I'm very doubtful the wolf furry population is a product of people feeling that their greed and wickedness is on par with this howling dog creature. Thanks to the age of printing, around the 1500s, more books and stories could be made and shared everywhere. The late 1800s gave birth to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, an English novel by Lewis Carroll, which features Alice traversing through a world with anthropomorphic creatures, and The Jungle Book, a collection of stories, or more accurately fables, that also has anthropomorphic characters, written by Rudyard Kipling. I think it is fair to say that our society has, for a very long time, shown a great interest in the concept of attributing human characteristics to animals. If not all, the majority of the Western population would have probably heard of The Jungle Book and Alice in Wonderland. They are some of the most influential media I've ever seen about, considering the amount of books and movies and adaptations I've indulged in about them. But when we talk about furry, I'm sure your first thought is not the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, nor is it Egyptian gods, Baloo, or the snake from Adam and Eve. As far as definitions go, Google tells you a furry is an enthusiast for animal characters with human characteristics. There is an emphasis on people who dress up in costume or has a furry avatar online. While not everyone can afford to have a costume or a unique profile picture, I think a lot of people find enjoyment from anthropomorphizing characters, and they can feel all sorts of ways about it. Or maybe Google isn't the place to look for these answers. If we go to Urban Dictionary, the first and most liked result tells us that there is not one single correct definition of furry, and there is a history of disagreement within the furry fandom itself. Some would argue that, to be a furry, you must think and talk like one, i.e. use furry-specific words and phrases like ooh-woo, oh-whoa, and bulgy-bulgy. Even if you go to conventions, wear a fursuit, draw the art, write stories, etc., but don't talk with furry lingo, some people may not consider you a real furry. Others would argue that just simply liking anthropomorphic characters makes you furry. You may have no idea the furry fandom even exists, or have ever heard of a furry convention, but some will think that if you like it, then you're a furry. Thank you, Anonymous 2005, for explaining the rift in the furry space-time continuum. Observing anthropomorphism in a more modern form of media, we can see characters depicted in a way that more resembles what the average person thinks of when it comes to the term furry. One of my oldest examples is Cross Country Detours from 1940, a Warner Bros. Show where the narrator talks about the wonders of nature in the USA. Below these videos you can see people getting into arguments about comments such as, "These are the original furries," and "A group of closeted furries made this," responses being a mix of agreements, laughs, and completely rejecting the idea that this is furry at all. From the looks alone, it is. There is no argument regarding ratio, like how some people may say that catgirls are far too human to be furry, or another character that walks on all fours is too furry to be furry. It's certainly all anthropomorphic. You could certainly imagine someone at a furry convention that looks like that deer or lizard. Just maybe throw a few more rainbow colours in there. The bad guys made about $250 million US at the box office. Sonic the Hedgehog made $405 million US. Madagascar made $560 million US. This is comparable to Star Wars Rogue One, which made $530 million US at the box office. The anthropomorphism is certainly not a setback. A lot of us enjoy these things, not just because of the animals, but because they're good films. But just because it's anthro doesn't mean furries automatically enjoy it either. Beastars did very well with a 7.9 score on my anime list. Not mine specifically, but Mal, and 700k, almost 800k members. Compare this to My Neighbor Totoro's 8.3 score, and 950k members. These are pretty comparable, but Mal is Mal. I thought it was good, but the okay kind of good. I gave it a 7. Would these shows and movies be significantly better if characters in it were all human? 'Cause I don't think so, really. Potentially they could be worse. I mean, you know how shitty people can be about races and cultures and how people look. Maybe erasing all that serves a purpose when it comes to certain types of entertainment. Louisa here is a bunny because I like bunnies. She's a bunny because I wanted to make a character with bunny feet instead of typical wolf or cat paw types. I wanted to make a cute rabbit girl. Personally, as far as anthropomorphic characters go, I think I can make them in a style that isn't too off-putting for your average non-identifying furry. Enough for people to say, I'm not a furry, but... Because the truth is, you are a furry, Mr. Snifflebutters. I saw the way you were looking at those bunny buns. There is no justification for your actions. As of today, I'm fairly certain that 69% of my Twitch chat have been converted into furries by yours truly. I remember what you said when I was working on these bunny models the past year. You cannot unspeak your word. My love of bunnies started when I was 12. They were my first real pet outside of a goldfish I had that barely survived a month or 3. I don't remember. People always think fish are so easy to take care of, but they are very complicated creatures. They are very complicated creatures that need more than treated water and fish flakes. My goldfish had the bare minimum, and so did my rabbits for the longest time until I got my first real job. Now, you can imagine if I left school at 18 and didn't get a job outside of commissions until I was 20 or 21, I didn't get to spoil my rabbits with my minimum wage riches for very long. People, please thoroughly research what it means to own a pet or your children's pets, because there's so much garbage information that people, companies and pet stores tell people about certain animals that just aren't true. Most pets need more care than most pet owners are giving them, and it's a horrible culture that we have here. You'll see the theme of bunnies sneak into the demon persona here and there, because it's just a part of who I am. I wouldn't exactly call myself a furry, but I'm sure someone out there thinks I am, and that's a-okay. As far as Louie's design goes, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on her. People seem to like her. I'm definitely still behind on doing a lot of promotional work for her, but I'm behind on everything. I'm hoping to be able to sort of catch up soon, even though I really think I'm pretty screwed as far as getting back to commissions go. I'm sorry everyone, please forgive my incompetence. I've really wanted to get more into making models for sale that are just my own design. I know some guys might be a bit frustrated with the limited amount of male avatars available for them to wear and or customize. I wanted to fix that, but we'll have to see about when, since I have a lot on my plate right now. Are you one of those people who want a male avatar to make your own, or just wear casually in VR chat or streaming maybe? And what kind of things would you want in that avatar? Is Louisa far too furry for you? If not, and you want this model, you can find it on Patreon or buy it on Booth. Since this is an original model, it's not at every Patreon tier, but I have to have at least some standards. Speaking of Patreons, thank you all very much for tolerating me, and a huge welcome to the newbies. Uncomfortable, Aidel, Blackberry, Hylidae, and Kawaiidogmeat. Biggest thank yous to Eeyore Hee Haw and SpudTheCat for being the grey up above that we all need but don't deserve. Thank you for watching, Closet Furries. Farewell! Just so you know, that Gwen Linus figure sold for $57 million at Sotheby's auctions. $57 million US dollars.